For millennia, the cries of the enslaved have echoed, often reduced to mere footnotes in grand imperial chronicles of power. We typically envision vast numbers, their lives consumed by the brutal apparatus of ancient oppression across civilizations. Millions of voiceless women, stripped of freedom and agency, seemingly lost to time, their spirits extinguished by the cruel whip. But what if this conventional narrative, though grimly accurate, is profoundly incomplete? What if defiance was not always silent? How did individual women, shackled by immense power, find avenues to resist, to challenge their predetermined, cruel fate? This cinematic journey delves deeper, asking how the human spirit, even under brutal conditions, refused to be broken. Ancient societies, from Rome to the Near East, relied heavily on forced labor, building empires on the backs of the unfree. Historical records, often sparse and biased, nevertheless hint at an unwavering will to survive and actively defy their masters. Our expert analysis suggests resistance manifested in myriad forms, from covert sabotage to profound spiritual resilience. These acts, though rarely glorified, were strategic ripples against systemic subjugation threatening individual and collective identity. We promise to uncover hidden acts of courage, meticulously piecing evidence from fragmented texts and archaeology, to reveal untold stories of women whose profound resilience fundamentally shaped their communities and indeed history. This is not merely suffering, it is a powerful testament to the extraordinary strength of the human spirit. It challenges us to reconsider oppression and the unyielding drive for self-determination and human dignity. Prepare for an epic historical movie, meticulously researched, honoring these forgotten heroines of antiquity. Join us as we unveil their astonishing struggle in the unbroken spirit. Defying the chains of antiquity. From the dawn of civilization, the institution of slavery cast a long, dark shadow across human history, embedding itself deeply within the very fabric of ancient societies. It was an economic engine, a social cornerstone, and an unyielding force. But within this universal tragedy, there existed a particularly cruel stratum of oppression: the subjugation of women. Their lives were defined by a unique and multifaceted burden, distinct even from their male counterparts. Across the sprawling empires of antiquity, from the Nile's fertile banks to the sun-baked stones of the Roman Forum, female slaves endured an existence marked by relentless servitude and profound dehumanization. They were not merely laborers or possessions. They were instruments, objects, and often collateral in a system designed to extract every ounce of utility from their being. Their very bodies became sites of control. Legal systems across these varied cultures were united in one stark reality: enslaved women possessed virtually no rights. They were legally chattel, property to be bought, sold, or inherited. Their personhood was stripped away, replaced by an identity rooted solely in ownership. This legal vacuum rendered them utterly vulnerable to the whims of their masters and mistresses. Socially, the stigma of slavery isolated them, denying them any semblance of status or dignity beyond their prescribed roles. They existed at the absolute lowest rung of any societal ladder. They were perpetually alien, denied integration, even when their labor was indispensable to the daily functioning of households and economies. This social death compounded their physical bondage. Economically, their contributions were immense, yet uncompensated. They toiled in fields, spun textiles, ground grain, and managed elaborate households, often with remarkable skill and efficiency. In ancient Egypt, female slaves might serve as domestic help, temple servants, or even entertainers, their lives dictated entirely by their owners' needs and desires. Their labor was crucial to the agricultural backbone of civilizations, working alongside men, but often subjected to additional forms of exploitation unique to their gender. They were the unseen engines of domestic life, maintaining homes, raising children, often not their own, and sustaining the fundamental comforts of the elite. Yet, despite their tireless efforts, they owned nothing. Their labor generated no wealth for themselves, only for those who held them captive, perpetuating their economic dependence. The most brutal aspect, however, was the pervasive sexual subjugation. Female slaves were routinely viewed as commodities for sexual gratification, concubinage, or forced breeding. This was not an anomaly, but an entrenched feature of the system, often implicitly or explicitly sanctioned by legal codes and social norms of the time. In ancient Greece, female slaves were confined to the oikos, the household, performing domestic duties, but also exposed to the constant threat of sexual abuse by male members of the family. The distinction between a slave and a sex worker often blurred, with many enslaved women forced into prostitution, providing revenue for their owners in the notorious pornai. Roman society, with its vast scale of slavery, saw women enslaved from every conquered territory, destined for homes, workshops, or the brutal realities of the arena's periphery. The domestica were indispensable, but also acutely vulnerable. Their bodies were subject to the patriarch's absolute control, a power known as patria potestas. Sexual exploitation was a commonplace reality, often without legal recourse. The master's right over a slave's body was an accepted, horrifying facet of their legal status. Children born to enslaved women were automatically slaves, perpetuating the cruel cycle and forming a slave population that was economically valuable to their owners. These women were often forced into pregnancies, viewed as breeders to increase the owner's human chattel, a stark illustration of their complete loss of autonomy. Beyond the major empires, in various smaller kingdoms and tribal societies, similar patterns of female enslavement emerged, adapting to local customs but retaining the core brutality. Whether captured in war, sold due to debt, or born into bondage, their narratives across the ancient world echoed a shared plight of profound disempowerment. The sheer scale of this dehumanization is difficult to comprehend. Imagine an existence where your body, your labor, your very future is entirely at another's command. Every aspect of life, from sustenance to companionship, was contingent upon the will of those who owned them, leaving little room for personal agency or choice. The psychological toll of such sustained oppression must have been immense, a daily battle against despair in the face of insurmountable odds. Yet, even within this monolithic system of control, where hope seemed a distant whisper, the human spirit, particularly the spirit of these women, refused to be extinguished. This iron hand of history, clamping down on female lives, forged an unlikely resilience, a subtle strength that would eventually challenge the very foundations of their subjugation. Understanding the depth of this systematic oppression is critical. It provides the essential context for appreciating the sheer magnitude of their defiance. Their story is not merely one of suffering, but of survival, of cunning, and of an unwavering, though often unseen, resistance that defied the expectations of their captors. It is against this backdrop of pervasive legal, social, economic, and sexual bondage that we begin to trace the subtle lines of their fight for freedom. These women, seemingly powerless, would leverage hidden strengths and forge unique paths to challenge their circumstances, often in ways that eluded the historical record's direct gaze. Expert analysis of fragmented records and archaeological discoveries slowly unveils a tapestry of everyday resistance, small acts that chipped away at the system. They lived under constant threat, their bodies and minds under siege, yet they found ways to assert their humanity, even in the most inhumane of conditions. Their resistance was rarely a grand military uprising. It was a more nuanced, insidious form of defiance, born from a deep-seated human need for dignity. It was a strategic battle, waged not with swords, but with wits, with solidarity, and with an unyielding spirit that refused to accept their allotted fate. This deep dive into their oppression is not just about recounting hardship. It is about establishing the immense gravity of the challenge they faced. It sets the stage for a compelling narrative of how, even when every avenue seemed blocked, the resolve to live free and whole persisted. Their stories, often lost to the annals of dominant narratives, speak to a universal truth about the indomitable nature of the human spirit. They represent a testament to how the most marginalized can, through sheer will and strategic ingenuity, push back against overwhelming power. The architects of these ancient systems believed their dominion was absolute, yet they gravely underestimated the enduring power of the oppressed to dream of liberation. This was the world they inhabited, a brutal crucible that would temper their resolve and ignite the first sparks of a truly epic resistance. A resistance that began not with a roar, but with a whisper, slowly building towards an unforgettable chorus of defiance. The overwhelming forces of oppression sought to strip them of everything: identity, heritage, and hope. Yet true defiance rarely begins on a grand battlefield. It ignites in the shadows, nurtured by whispers and sustained by the unwavering human spirit refusing to be extinguished. This is the story of a resistance waged not with swords and spears, but with ingenuity, resilience, and the quiet power of the human will. Ancient female slaves, stripped of overt power, understood that preserving their cultural essence was their first, most potent act of rebellion. They clung to their ancestral songs, woven into lullabies, carrying narratives of lost lands and proud ancestors, sung softly in the dark. These melodic threads formed an invisible shield, protecting their collective memory from the relentless assault of their oppressors. Through traditional rituals, observed in secrecy and coded gestures, they maintained spiritual connections, defying attempts to erase their very souls. Language itself became a weapon. Secret dialects, subtle inflections, or shared understandings became a covert network. These hidden linguistic pathways allowed them to communicate plans, share intelligence, and forge bonds unseen by their masters. It was a brilliant exercise in operational security, exploiting the oppressor's presumption of their intellectual inferiority. Subversive storytelling, too, became a powerful instrument in their arsenal of defiance, passed down through generations. Folk tales, seemingly innocent, often carried allegories of cunning heroes, outsmarting tyrannical giants or cruel masters. These narratives instilled hope and taught survival strategies, educating children in the art of resistance from their earliest days. Every story whispered was a seed of rebellion, ensuring the flame of identity and defiance continued to burn brightly. Furthermore, domestic roles, designed to subjugate, were often subtly subverted with extraordinary strategic intelligence. While seemingly confined to the household, these women gained intimate knowledge of their captors' routines and vulnerabilities. They learned the rhythm of their lives, the layout of their homes, and the weaknesses in their security, all crucial intelligence. Feigning ignorance or clumsiness became a tactical maneuver, disrupting daily operations and causing small, persistent inefficiencies. A dropped tray, a forgotten message, a task performed just slowly enough to cause delay. Each a miniature act of sabotage. These small acts of defiance, though seemingly minor, chipped away at the oppressor's authority and control. They understood the psychology of their captors with an acute, almost chilling precision, turning perceived weakness into strength. Emotional intelligence became a potent, often overlooked instrument of influence and subtle manipulation. Appearing compliant, even subservient, they gained trust, extracting valuable information or subtly altering their master's decisions. A well-timed plea, a calculated display of emotion, could sometimes soften harsh conditions or protect fellow slaves. This wasn't simply survival. It was a complex system of psychological warfare, waged in the most intimate of settings. These women formed informal networks, sharing strategies and reinforcing each other's resolve through unspoken connections. Each whisper of freedom, each preserved tradition, each subtle act of defiance contributed to a collective spirit of resistance. Their ingenuity proves that true strength lies not always in overt power, but often in the resilience of the human mind. These everyday acts of resistance carved out spaces of dignity, preserving the essence of their humanity against impossible odds. Though unrecorded in official chronicles, these quiet victories were fundamental to maintaining a sense of self and community. They stand as a profound testament to the enduring human spirit, forever seeking agency even in the darkest of times. The strategic brilliance of these ancient women, battling overwhelming oppression, continues to inspire us today. Their legacy reminds us that heroism often thrives where it is least expected, in the unyielding heart. Yet, amidst crushing servitude, defiance flickered. Within their very lives, a different resistance coalesced. Family and community bonds were not sentiments. They were sinews of survival, linking past and future. Their roles, confined to the domestic sphere, placed them at the oppressor's heart. This proximity offered dangerous avenues for quiet rebellion. Within daily chores, preparing meals, tending children, seeds of covert resistance were sown, turning constraint into a weapon. This was a silent war, fought not with swords, but with whispers, shared glances, protecting fragments of freedom. Their paramount concern, transcending suffering, was protecting children. Motherhood's primal instinct forged an unbreakable shield. Mothers engaged desperate, clandestine efforts to shield their young from brutality, from threats of separation or exploitation. Protection manifested in covert acts, teaching secret heritage songs, whispering tales of freedom, imparting warnings about masters. Through storytelling and lullabies, they preserved ancestral memories, ensuring their people's legacy endured through generations. They transmitted not just history, but practical knowledge, ancestral ways, language, a profound self-worth denied by enslavers. Communication became an art, a dangerous dance of subtle signals and coded messages exchanged beneath watchful eyes, often unspoken. A chosen glance, a task's rhythm, an innocent comment conveyed crucial information, knitting an invisible network. Household tasks became conduits. The laundry line, well, communal grinding stone, transformed into points for discrete intelligence. The kitchen, a bustling nexus, served as epicenter for clandestine exchange of gossip, news, and rudimentary strategic planning. Beyond communication, women leveraged profound shared knowledge, particularly in healing arts, passed down through generations. These women were primary healers, possessing intricate understanding of herbs, poultices, and traditional remedies to alleviate suffering. This knowledge, while caring for their own, sometimes extended to treating oppressors, creating complex, often fraught, dependency. Such moments offered a sliver of leverage, a temporary respite where their undervalued skills were indispensable, granting limited influence. The flip side of healing was dangerous, potent sabotage knowledge. This was insidious, untraceable passive resistance, chipping at system efficiency. Subtle acts included deliberate inefficiencies, misplaced tools, or careful spoiling of food, designed to disrupt and demoralize. A single, well-timed act could ruin a harvest, spoil a meal, or delay a crucial task, creating frustration for enslavers. The risks of these defiant acts were immense, carrying brutal punishment. Yet women persisted, driven by an unyielding desire for justice. Beyond individual defiance, these women forged robust community and solidarity networks, transcending household boundaries. These were not formal organizations, but organic, underground networks built on trust, shared experience, and collective mutual aid. Mutual support manifested in sharing meager rations, offering comfort in grief, or providing clandestine assistance to runaways. Collective strength from this solidarity provided emotional resilience and practical support, allowing individuals to endure hardship. Expert analysis suggests these networks aided runaways, providing vital information, safe passage, or rudimentary medical care. Often, older women, revered for wisdom, assumed silent, powerful leadership within these burgeoning resistance communities. Their guidance was subtle, authority earned through respect, helping organize covert meetings and strategize undetectable defiance. The emotional burden of this clandestine struggle was immense, yet their resilience stands as a testament to the indomitable human spirit. Thus, personal acts of protecting family intertwined with communal efforts, creating multifaceted resistance woven into daily life. These myriad acts, though uncelebrated in narratives, relentlessly chipped away at oppression, demonstrating unwavering refusal to yield. Their legacy is not just endurance, but active, defiant resilience, a testament to finding hope and agency in darkest times. While countless endured the silent torment, history also records a different, more volatile truth. Beyond the quiet agony, a fervent spark of rebellion often ignited in the most unexpected hearts, transforming individual defiance into collective, audacious action. Women, often deemed voiceless and powerless within the brutal mechanisms of ancient slavery, held unique positions that inadvertently facilitated networks of resistance. Their daily tasks, often involving movement between different households or market visits, allowed for clandestine communication. Whispers of discontent could travel through laundry lines, hushed conversations by the well, or coded messages woven into textile patterns. A clandestine solidarity, forged in shared suffering, began to take root in the shadows of their oppression. The perceived fragility of female slaves was a shield, allowing them to organize with a stealth often unavailable to their male counterparts, who were under constant, direct surveillance in fields or mines. From sabotaging their masters' goods to subtly poisoning their food, these initial acts of quiet rebellion, though individually small, often paved the way for something far grander. They were rehearsals for defiance. But the true crucible of courage was when these individual sparks coalesced, fueled by an unbearable yearning for liberty. This was the moment quiet defiance transformed into the terrifying gamble of open revolt. To conceive of, let alone participate in, an uprising against a militarily superior, ruthless power required a mental fortitude almost incomprehensible. The risks were absolute, the consequences of failure unimaginably brutal. Yet, a hunger for freedom, an inherent human dignity, propelled some women to choose the path of active, direct rebellion. These were not mere acts of desperation, but often strategic decisions, however slim the odds. Historical records, though scarce and often biased towards the victors, nonetheless hint at the profound impact of women in these uprisings. Their roles were diverse, crucial, and often overlooked in traditional narratives. Consider the daring escape attempts. Women, often tasked with domestic duties or child-rearing, would meticulously plan their flight, leveraging their knowledge of the estate or surrounding lands. These were not impulsive flights, but calculated risks. They involved gathering provisions, securing routes, and often protecting children during a perilous journey into an uncertain future. The bravery inherent in such an act, knowing the relentless pursuit that would follow, the dogs and armed men, is a testament to an unyielding spirit. Every step was a declaration of defiance. Beyond individual escapes, women played indispensable roles in larger, more organized slave revolts. They were the backbone of support systems, essential for the rebellion's survival. Expert analysis of ancient conflicts, like those in the Roman Empire, reveals that women provided crucial intelligence, mapping out enemy movements and relaying vital information to rebel leaders. They were often healers, tending to the wounded with herbs and makeshift bandages, transforming the brutal reality of conflict into a struggle for survival and solidarity. They could also be fierce combatants. Though less documented, there are accounts, often passed down through folklore, of women fighting alongside men, wielding whatever weapons they could procure. From stones and agricultural tools to captured swords, their participation on the battlefield, however rare, symbolizes the totality of their commitment to liberation. They fought for their future, their children's future. Many of these revolts, despite their immense courage, ultimately ended in tragedy. The forces of the oppressive empires were vast, well-trained, and relentlessly efficient in their suppression. Captured rebels faced the most horrific punishments, designed not only to crush the current uprising, but to instill terror in any who dared to contemplate future insurrections. Their lives were extinguished with brutal finality. The roads leading to cities would be lined with crucified bodies, a stark warning against challenging the established order. The cost of failure was agonizing, the price of freedom steep beyond measure. Yet, even in their often tragic outcomes, these acts of collective defiance held profound symbolic power. They were not mere failures, they were crucial statements. Each uprising, each escape, however short-lived, sent tremors through the foundations of the oppressive system. It shattered the illusion of total control, revealing the inherent instability of rule by fear. They reminded the enslavers that the human spirit, even when brutalized, could not be entirely broken. The enslaved would not passively accept their fate. The sight of women, those often relegated to the lowest echelons, rising up against their oppressors, conveyed a message of unyielding resolve that resonated far beyond the immediate battlefield. Their acts became legends, whispered from generation to generation, fueling hope and subtly shaping the narrative of resistance for those who would follow. These women, who dared to move beyond the veil of quiet suffering, embody the indomitable power of the human spirit. Their courage, their sacrifice, and their defiance forged an eternal testament to freedom's enduring call. Even in their often devastating defeats, their collective action remains a monumental chapter in humanity's ceaseless struggle against tyranny. An echo of antiquity's most profound truths. The struggle of these ancient female slaves echoes through the annals of time, far beyond the confines of their immediate oppression. Their defiance, often silent and deeply personal, sculpted the very foundations of human resistance against tyranny. These weren't dramatic battlefields, but a daily, relentless war waged on the soul. Each small act of courage, each refusal to yield completely, sent ripples through the oppressive structures. Collectively, their quiet resilience began to chip away at the formidable edifice of slavery. It was a slow, agonizing process, but one that proved undeniably effective over centuries. Their steadfastness functioned as an insidious form of psychological warfare, subtly eroding the absolute authority slaveholders sought to project. It bred a constant undercurrent of unease. Amidst the dehumanizing conditions, these women preserved an invaluable internal sanctuary of self-worth. They refused to let their spirit be enslaved, even if their bodies were. Every defiant glance, every whispered prayer for freedom, planted potent seeds of discontent within the broader enslaved community. Hope, however fragile, began to blossom. Their stories, often passed down through clandestine folklore and song, became powerful legends. They inspired nascent courage in successive generations who faced similar hardships. Crucially, female slaves became the unheralded guardians of cultural heritage. They meticulously preserved traditions, languages, and spiritual beliefs under the harshest scrutiny. Through secret rituals, intricate storytelling, and traditional crafts, they kept their ancestral identities alive. These acts were profound declarations of self-determination. Maintaining native languages, often at great risk, served as a potent form of linguistic resistance. It forged unbreakable bonds and reinforced a distinct cultural identity. Their spiritual practices, whether clandestine ceremonies or unwavering faith, provided an essential wellspring of strength. It was a defiant rejection of their captors' imposed ideologies. Beyond these cultural acts, many engaged in quiet sabotage. Expert analysis of ancient texts reveals frequent, unexplained drops in productivity and quality of goods. Work slowdowns, feigned illness, and accidental breakages of tools were common. These subtle acts had a cumulative, detrimental economic impact on their oppressors. The monumental courage of those who chose escape cannot be overstated. Often with children in tow, they risked everything for a mere chance at freedom. These desperate flights of daring formed the earliest, most rudimentary underground networks. Trust and communal solidarity became vital currencies for survival, while rare, direct, and overt confrontations did occur. Historical records, though often suppressed, describe instances of fierce, spontaneous rebellion by individual women. Their collective resistance, however unsung, began to exert indirect pressure on societal norms and eventually legal frameworks. It created a moral quandary. Their unwavering defiance starkly challenged the convenient narrative of the compliant, contented slave. It exposed the brutality and inherent injustice of the system. This sustained resistance slowly pricked the conscience of some within the ruling classes. It gradually contributed to a nascent moral awakening about the true cost of slavery. In the long arc of history, these acts laid foundational stones for future abolitionist movements. Their struggle illuminated the path for those who would eventually fight for emancipation. Their fight for dignity and liberation was not merely against specific slaveholders. It was a fundamental struggle for universal human rights, transcending epochs and cultures. This ancient struggle for freedom resonates deeply with humanity's universal quest for liberty and self-determination. It is a timeless testament to the indomitable human spirit. These women demonstrated that individual acts of courage, however small or isolated, possess an enduring power. They collectively weave into a tapestry of monumental change. Their legacy is not merely one of suffering, but of immense courage and an unyielding will to survive against impossible odds. They are true heroes of ancient resistance. It is our duty as historians to unearth these often suppressed narratives. We must ensure that their profound contributions are acknowledged and honored in the historical record. They are the unsung champions, whose quiet battles against overwhelming oppression paved the way for future generations to envision and eventually attain true freedom. Furthermore, they fiercely fought to preserve family structures, resisting deliberate attempts by slaveholders to fragment and destroy familial bonds for control. Through their resilience, they instilled values of hope, perseverance, and identity in their children. This ensured the flame of resistance would never be extinguished. The economic impact of their collective resistance, through sabotage and escape, albeit difficult to quantify precisely, placed a constant burden on the slave economy. The psychological toll on oppressors, forced to maintain constant vigilance against subtle and overt defiance, was also a hidden yet significant consequence of their struggle. Their monumental fight for basic humanity provided a crucial bedrock for subsequent civil rights movements. It proved that injustice, however entrenched, can be challenged. We are compelled to remember their profound contributions. Their strength, strategic ingenuity, and unwavering spirit define a chapter of history we must never forget. Their struggle reminds us that the fight for equality and freedom is an enduring human endeavor, echoing from ancient times to our present-day battles for justice. Their story stands as a timeless source of inspiration. It compels us to confront oppression in all its forms and to cherish the hard-won liberties we hold today. The echoes of their resilience are not faint whispers, but a resounding declaration. They are a testament to the undeniable, monumental impact of their unsung struggle on the very course of human history. Our journey through the annals of antiquity reveals an undeniable truth. The human spirit, even when enslaved, possesses an unconquerable will to defy overwhelming oppression. We have borne witness to the extraordinary resilience of ancient female slaves, whose courage transcended the shackles of their circumstance. Their acts of resistance, whether subtle defiance or organized rebellion, forged a profound legacy of unwavering strength and strategic ingenuity against formidable odds. These sagas teach us that true freedom is not merely a physical state, but an enduring conviction of the heart and mind, impossible to truly subjugate. For too long, the heroism and immense sacrifices of these women have been unjustly relegated to the shadows, their pivotal contributions deliberately erased from dominant historical accounts. Our meticulous analysis aimed to illuminate these forgotten figures, honoring their indomitable spirit and the strategic foresight they often displayed. Their struggles were not isolated incidents. They were powerful catalysts, shaping the very fabric of their societies and inspiring countless acts of defiance across generations. This cinematic exploration serves as a vital call to remember, reminding us that history gains its true depth when every voice, especially the long silenced, finds its rightful place. Let their stories resonate as a testament to the power of human dignity, a timeless beacon for anyone facing seemingly insurmountable odds. We encourage you to reflect on these profound lessons, acknowledging the often overlooked architects of change who shaped our world. Join us as we continue to unearth such epic narratives, offering in-depth expert historical analysis and cinematic storytelling that brings the past vividly to life. Explore the untold stories, the strategic brilliance, and the enduring courage of those who refuse to be defined by their chains. Subscribe to Echoes of Antiquity, share this powerful journey of resilience, and continue to explore these epic, emotionally resonant histories. Discover more incredible human triumphs and strategic masterstrokes with a leading analysis channel where history truly resonates.